Now we can move on to, let me gear up here, Personnel Committee. All right, we'll call our Personnel Committee meeting to order. My name's spelled wrong, Cheryl. Just above the discussion. All right, any discussion? Privilege of the committee chair, committee members, legislators to discuss items of interest regarding departments governed by this committee. Hearing none, we will move into our first resolution. It was a resolution establishing part-time agricultural planning assistant position and amending the 2016 operating budget. Needs a sponsor and a second. Joe, Bob? Sponsors?
Yeah.
We've got to wait and get our sponsors. You sponsoring?
This is resolution number 2 that you have?
No, it's our first resolution. Part-time agricultural planning assistant.
Okay. Yeah.
Sponsor, second, Bob. Discussion, Barb, you want to ask Ken something?
Well, no, I'll wait till he's done.
Yeah, I'll probably give you some history on why we're here today, actually. What we did is we received in 2015 a grant from Ag and Markets in relation to updating our Ag and Farmland Protection Program. It was a $35,000 grant. There was a $10,000 in-kind cash match from the county, so we had $25,000 to work with. What we did at staff level in these instances normally, as we do, is we went out and found an RFP for to get a consultant to undertake this update. We did receive responses back, we vetted them, and we recommended a consultant to the Ag and Farmland Protection Board. At that meeting, Legislator Kelly was there too. At that meeting, the Ag and Farmland Protection Board did not want to go the route of a consultant, and therefore they asked us to prepare basically this year to do a part-time individual that would be hired. So that's why we're here. Our direction, at first was to go through the consultant. So we're here basically upon the recommendation of the Ag and Farmland Protection Board. So I think there was some history that had to be, that the legislature should know before we got into the discussion. And I'm sure Legislator Kelly probably has some more comments in relation to the discussion.
Joe?
Maybe you recognize I'm not on this committee.
No, go ahead. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
You're saying an RFP was issued?
Correct.
Oh, I thought you went.
And it was responded to by how many people?
2 firms.
And you made a selection?
Yeah.
Okay, and this the board's preference that we hire a person, for a part-time person for the county, or a full-time person for a limited length of time? Let me understand this.
The board's preference is that we hire an individual that would work under our department. Given the amount of money available and so forth, it would be a part-time position for probably a little bit over 1 year.
What was the rationale behind that on the board's part? There's no one here from that board.
It was my sense, and I don't want to speak for Legislator Kelly, was that there really wanted to be some very local input into the process and so forth.
Barb?
Thank you. I had some knowledge of going into this, so I thought it was going to be a part-time person working with economic development. So what my question was going to be, and I was waiting until they were done, was it only going to be an 18-month position, and then what was going to happen after the 18 months? But when I saw Martin's hand, I would wait my time until after Martin, because he may answer my questions in what he's going to say.
Answer, sir.
So the board, committee, whatever the designation is, we met, we did review the RFP that was recommended to the committee. There were some issues with it that the committee felt, and the committee as a whole, who were present voting members, thought that it would be more beneficial for a this project to hire a local person to do groundwork, data gathering, instead of hiring an outside firm where the monies would be used up just in one travel to the county. We're dealing with a very small amount of money, and the committee felt that one trip to the county would use up a majority of the funds, and we would be left with a very generic plan at the end of the process. In the budget, when we last talked, we budgeted a certain amount for a part-time person and also had monies left over in the current budget of the $45,000 so that we could have an outside firm look over the data and kind of give it a polish. But the committee felt that a local person to do on the ground, door knocking, gathering information, and seeing exactly what the agricultural industry of the county was looking for in the farmland protection in the county.
Ryan?
My question and concern is, and I completely understand that rationale, if we were to hire a consultant, we're hiring them for a lump sum fee, and they need to complete the project for that lump sum fee. If we hire an individual to come in and work for the county on a part-time basis, how are we going to ensure that we get that same product at the end of whenever they work until? And it might be a simple answer, but that's my concern.
I think that's a legitimate concern, because a part-time temporary employee paid on an hourly basis rather than upon completion of the contract. So it's a little bit different. When you hire a consulting firm, the consulting firm comes in, typically you do a retainer on that, retainage I should say, and then you know, as a way of ensuring that they finish the product up to the standards that we've set.
The other concern too we had, is obviously this would be a part-time position at 30,000 to 500. It'd be over the course of, just over a year. Perhaps that individual has the opportunity to take another job somewhere else. There could be a lot of turnover in relation to one plan done. In relation to that, the personnel office, it would be up to the unemployment board, but they could be eligible at a certain time for unemployment insurance or unemployment through the county. And I think we pay on a one-to-one basis. So I can't sit here and say that this would only cost you $45,000 if we hired somebody on the county payroll. So I want you guys to be aware of that. Depending on the individual and the circumstances that they roll out for the next year, we can sit here and say this will only cost the county $45,000 to stay within those benefits.
Chair, if I could ask what the RFPs came back at what price range, and also what supervision would be responsible for supervision and setting up the process for this part-time.
To answer those questions in order, the bids came back within, at the grant amount. This is a public grant announcement, so it's very easy for any company, consulting firm to Google it and figure out how much money is there. They understand that, so we actually put that amount in the RFP. So they came back with that amount and with the full scope of work. In terms of supervising an individual, that would be done under the auspices of our office. There would be the substantive involvement of the Agricultural Protection Board, which is a very active and able board, in just we'll do the day-to-day supervision. The board would do, just the overall arching, taking a look at where the project is going and so forth. That very type of supervision model would apply to consultants as well, in a sense that we would, as we do, we watch the consultant and monitor them on a day-to-day or at least week-to-week basis.
I guess my question is, that the consultant would come in with a process already in place of how they were going to deliver these services. Whereas an employee, someone would have to say, look, this is what our department wants you to do, and this is how you're going to go about doing it, and this is the data that we want to achieve from it.
Right. The consultant would come in with a more fixed idea. The engagement would still be subject to negotiation and our department's direction now.
I have Martin and Terry.
Just in all fairness, the committee we originally did look at the proposals, and the one that was recommended to us, and our fear is that we're just going to get a boilerplate process. It's a very basic project. They couldn't even get Montgomery to delete all of the other county names. They left one of the previous names of another county that they tried to do a bid for. And that was a bone of contention with the members of the committee. I believe it was Monroe County or Oneida County, some other county that they previously submitted the same application to the RFP.
That happened with our charter. That happened with our charter, Putnam
Yeah.
County. I had Terry, then Duke.
I'm not on that board, but I am on the Soil and Water Board, and Corey and Martin kind of discussed it at the meeting. They felt there was some history previously with the other consultants that you weren't totally satisfied with, and they just felt a part-time person would work out better. My personal opinion is that the Montgomery County Agricultural and Farmland Protection Board went through all this, and this is what they recommend. And being that this is Agricultural Day, right? Month. I think we ought to go with their recommendation. Thank you.
Duke.
I disagree. I think that's a big leap to make, to take a look at a response to a proposal and say that all this criteria could be better met, not in a tidy little package with deliverables, but by someone that we in effect choose to do this on a part-time basis. And to have that advisory board make the recommendation to us that whereby we have to engage an employee, it would really be a full-time employee for a limited period of time. I think, again, it is a stretch. And I understand that there may have been that typo, but it's not uncommon certainly for companies that are responding to any number of RFPs to use some of the same boilerplate language in response to the RFP. But that does not mean that the actual work itself would be boilerplate. That too, I think, is a big leap to make. I think a false assumption. I think I did take a look at that RFP, and I think it was tightly circumscribed. And I think the work and deliverables that we would get would be quite clear, or else there wouldn't be any compensation. And so, the most prudential thing we could do here, and I am stopping short of wondering if there isn't somebody lined up for this position already. Well, I suppose by mentioning that I'm not, but that certainly creeps into the situation. It's not something that we typically do for other kinds of work, whereby we use the RFP process. If there's that degree of unhappiness with respect to the responses, then maybe they could reissue the RFP. But certainly that is the best way to go. And you're not going to get, I think, in one person some of the qualities that you can get in companies that typically do this work.
Barb, and then Martin, and then Ryan.
Yeah, I'm
Sorry
not
if I
sure
got
who
you out
the
of order.
consulting firm is, where they're out of, I'm not sure who the person is. I just would like to get the best product for the money. I know that we had a wonderful person in economic development that was very connected to the agricultural world. We ended up losing that person for a better job. So I'd like to listen to the board that got the money. If they have a person, I don't know why that would be the worst thing in the world. If they have a consultant firm, I don't know why that would be the worst thing in the world. I didn't get to see the RFP. But I would definitely take a look at it. I've taken a look at many of them, but maybe going out for them again would be another option. Thank you.
Martin, then Ryan.
Bill, when did we originally, the committee first met? Was it a year ago, a year and a half ago? And the committee originally thought that we wanted to hire a part-time person? I know some time has
We
passed.
looked, I believe that was a September 29th meeting, Martin, I would have to confirm that. But that's where that was discussed.
And the other thing, thank you for just stopping short of saying that I'm going to hire a friend to fill that position.
Well, I'm wondering if you don't have someone in mind.
I don't.
Direct your comments to the chair.
Sorry.
Point
Thank
of
you.
order too.
That's where I was going. Ryan.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with the thoughts of legislator DeChessie and the look at a consultant firm. And my concern remains that there's nothing to guarantee with a part-time temporary position that we would end up with a product, and there really would be no recourse for getting that, where with a firm, with a contractor of any sort, you would have that retainage that you could hold back until that product is complete. So I have a real concern about completing the product in not the amount of time, not for the amount of money, but in just a very obscure part-time basis until it's done, or we use up the money, or that's unclear to me. But I think, and I just want to point out, when you hire a consultant firm, you're hiring a firm, not an individual. You are getting the benefit and the capabilities of a firm, not an individual. The softwares, the backgrounds, the skills of an entire firm, and that's why even our engineering projects are the building assessment study of this structure. We don't hire engineers in DPW. We don't have any engineers in DPW because it is beneficial to go out to a consultant who has those capabilities and can do it, frankly, at a much lesser cost, and generally yield a much superior product. So, I just think it's a departure from, I think, what we do as a county, and I think the benefits of a consultant firm versus a very obscure hiring a part-time temporary employee, it's of a concern to me.
Okay.
Martin, I apologize for that implication and for the outright statement both. But I just do have one further question. Were there any particulars in the response with respect to the scope of work that was required and what the deliverables? Was there anything in there that was objectionable?
I don't believe so.
All right. What would the, Bob?
I guess we have two different opinions here, and it could go like either direction. But if we decided not to support this part-time position, we change this resolution, just not make it to the floor, how do we, in that scenario, how would we proceed?
Well, right now, the resolution, and council can tell me if I'm wrong, but the resolution is for a part-time position, not a consultant. If you wanted to amend the resolution, you would have to amend the resolution offering up a consulting firm name, I would believe, and then just enter the amount in that you would agree with. But I don't know if you have any of that data or any of those facts. I don't know how you'd do that tonight. You'd have to have somebody come forward with a consultant who sent in we would be hiring it, right?
Right.
And I believe, I haven't seen this RFP either, but I believe the time has probably expired to award the contract You might want to rebid it anyway.
Ryan?
Who initially directed the issuance of the RFP? And in that RFP, I know there was a provision in there for the Ag Farmland Protection Board to review. Ultimately, the final say-so was the legislature. Just two clarifications on the RFP for this project.
What we did was at really the direction of the State Department of Agriculture and Markets, issued an RFP, also obviously in consultation with the Executive's office. I wanted just to address the role here because the Agricultural Board has a very important role, and this is statutorily defined in terms of this process and so forth. The sense that they actually take the plan that's created, look at it, and present it to the county legislature for approval. So they're, in terms of their role and their degree of integration into the process, it's very deep and so forth. So, you know, in terms of the selection of the consultant, there's a very important role for the Ag Protection Board here. And what I had done was I spoke to John Brennan, who's been our contact at Ag and Markets and been very good with us in terms of time and in terms of advice and everything like that. And what John said was, you do not have to hire, you don't have to engage a consultant as far as we're concerned. I'm paraphrasing here, but we really prefer that you did. He said, you know, it's okay to go ahead and hire an individual. That's been done sometimes. He did say, though, that, you know, there was a preference. He was just stating this as his own, that we hire a consultant because of the broader capabilities of the consultant firm. Actually, forgetting the name of the consultant out of Syracuse, I checked with John on their competencies and so forth, and he gave them the mileage.
Just, I guess to rephrase my question,
Go ahead.
who awards the RFP ultimately?
The legislature.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
I would just give my opinion on this. I'm not on the committee, but while I agree with Legislator White's and Legislator Duchessis, I think the consultant is the way to go. But I would just want to add that whether it was a consultant or a part-time person, if they were under the direction of our economic development department, I'm sure there would be a great outcome. But my preference would be the consultant.
All right.
Just a few more questions. If this were to go forward and we were to hire a part-time or full-time person for a limited amount of time here to do this, how would that person be selected? How would that go forward?
Martin?
I should have asked this question first. That's why I apologize to you.
The committee was going to review, and ultimately it would be a hire in the Economic Development Office. So I assume that Matt in the legislature, or Matt, the administrative portion, would have the end
We
result.
would advertise for an opening?
Yes.
Let me clarify that.
Go ahead.
Obviously, as part of this process, we had to work with personnel and come up with a job description. I think it was attached to your resolution as an attachment. And that obviously put them in a grade level for the CSEA because of the bargaining position. Obviously, we would have to go out for a hiring process, do a 10-day posting, do an interview process, and then because it would give my office that I would be the appointing officer in relation to that.
Martin Kelly. All right. What's the pleasure? What do we got here? What's this under, personnel? Joe and Bob. What's your pleasure?
I don't want to be a sponsor.
Huh?
I don't want to sponsor.
I don't want to sponsor a guy.
You're removing your sponsorships?
Yes.
All right. Even if I wanted to, there's not two of us, so
Or anybody can sponsor the resolution.
Oh.
I would sponsor the resolution.
you would sponsor this resolution?
Oh, wait a minute, no.
This is the resolution.
I'll sponsor it.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Committee, what would you like to do with the resolution? Your sponsorships are removed. Do you want to move it forward? Right, am I doing this right? That's the
Full board,
committee.
that's fine.
Huh?
Want to move it to full board, that's fine.
Is that a yes vote?
And then we'll vote on it.
What are you waiting for my vote? Listen, I don't,
At least it gives everyone a chance to make their feelings known.
yeah, I'm not, if I vote to send it to full board, I don't believe in killing stuff. So I don't have a problem sending it to full board. That doesn't mean I'm committing to this position. It just means that I agree to send it
If
to
you
full
don't
board.
send it there, let it go, right?
What's that? I know, but, you know, this is what I don't like about when we talk about our committees of three. We all, yeah, we can move to full board with no recommend. That's what I was getting at. I'm not going to recommend one way or the other, but I don't have a problem moving it to the board.
I'm fine with that.
No
That'll make
recommendation.
it fair for everyone if they want to vote for it or not.
You could actually vote to move it forward with a negative recommendation
You could.
if you wanted to.
I think we can leave it up to full.
Yeah, I agree.
Let everybody have some time to think.
All right. Okay, so that's moved. Resolution adopting non-bargaining personnel policy for elected officials. I'll sponsor.
Second.
Right. All right, last week, we spent quite a bit of time going through the policy as presented. We had some changes that we wanted to make. We made those changes. The one I sponsored and Roy seconded. So we went through, we talked about everything that was in the document, and then we also talked about the salaries, which are on the back, that the majority of the folks here had agreed to. I know there were a couple that weren't present, but one thing I want to make very clear before we start is, if you look at D, it says, under introduction, this policy shall not be effective for elected officials who are in the middle of a term as of March 2016 until their respective revised salary is either ratified by local law or until the next term in office commences. This resolution has nothing to do with a local law backing up or retroacting salaries. If the legislature decides they would like to do that, it'll have to be done with another resolution. I didn't want to mix the two up, okay? We wanted to keep it very, very separate. Martin Kelly had a question. The question was, what is the total effect on the budget? Well, obviously there's no effect right now because it wouldn't go into effect. But if it were in effect today, these salaries, it would show an increase of $31,563 if it were in effect. I'm not talking about going backwards, I'm just saying if it went into effect. After we get through going through the policy tonight and we get that behind us, I do have some other numbers, if it is the pleasure of the legislature to know what the effect is, if you want to go back retro, if you want to entertain those things at another time. But I really want to just get through the policy now and make sure that we've got it. So I saw Barb.
Yeah. Is the personnel officer, I heard she was going to be here.
I said to her that we were going over nothing new tonight other than what we did, and I didn't really see. I would rather have her if there's going to be a discussion item on retroactivity. That's when I think it would be important for her to be here. But Megan and Nicole did a great job getting it all where we wanted it. So I think that Megan can really speak to anything that we talked about last week that we...
Okay, so would you know how many jobs that the county has that pay $25,000?
Unfortunately,
I mean, I
can't
was
answer
going to
that.
ask, I have a couple questions that I was going to ask that I knew she would have to research and maybe have until by the full board, actually.
But, I mean, you can get any questions you want to Nicole, and she'll answer them. I mean, I'm being specific to this tonight. I mean, there's probably a lot of questions of who makes, you know, what's important to understand is that she laid out some numbers for us. We tweaked them a little bit last meeting, and this is where we're at. And if you're just talking about the numbers, what I really wanted to do is hopefully go through the policy one more time so everybody's clear on it. Then if we get to the numbers, we can. But Joe had his hand up.
No,